Welcome to another Chazara Shiur on Mishnah Dal and Sugya Tes. It's a little bit of a longer Sugya, so fasten your seatbelt. But it's a very, very geshmak Sugya. Let's get straight ahead. Mishnah Dal. The Mishnah is actually very straightforward. The case goes as follows. If a balabayas, the owner gives fruits to his friend to watch, and as the shomer is watching it, the fruits start going bad. Rashi explains either because of mice or it's getting rotten. What is it then? Says the Mishnah, Tanakama says, don't touch it. Let it just rot away. It's the balabayas' loss. Shomer should not touch it. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says you should sell it in front of Bezdin. The shomer should go in front of Bezdin and sell it for a good price. And Bezdin sees that's actually being sold for a good price. Why? Because it's like returning a lost item. Just like a lost item. It's out lost in the middle of the street, and it's going to get lost. The owners are not going to have it anymore. Same thing over here. The owners are not going to have the fruits anymore. So by selling it, you're like returning the lost item to the owner. With that, and that is the Mishnah. Let's look at the Mishnah inside. Open up your Gemara, and as we're reading it inside, I want to try to read the Gemara along, b'dibur, verbally, so you internalize the learning and you bring the mitzvah into more limbs of your body. We're holding on Lamed Ches Amud Aleph by the Mishnah at the top of the page. Hamafkiid, one who deposits fruits by his friend, even if they are getting lost. Lo yiga bohen, you shouldn't touch them. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, "Meicher mifnei Bezdin yisalim in front of Bezdin." Because it's like he's returning a lost item to its owners. Very simple. Rashi, Abudin, they're getting lost. What does it mean that they're getting lost? Al yedei achbarim, through mice, or because of rotting. Lo yiga bohen, you shouldn't touch them. L'meicheram, to sell them. You should just leave them there. And the Mishnah explains a reason for Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. What's the reason for Tanakama? The time of fires the Gemara, and the reason for this is explained in the Gemara in the first section of the Gemara. So let's go right ahead to the first section, Sugya Tes. So again, we learned in the Mishnah. So before we go to the Gemara, let's learn some Yiddish Mukdamas. Truma and Ma'aser you probably already are familiar with. Truma and Ma'aser are parts that we separate from our produce, and we give Truma to the Kohen. Only a Kohen can have it, only when he's tired. And Ma'aser is the same to the Levi. We give 10% to the Levi. Tevel is when we have food that we didn't yet designate Truma and Ma'aser from it. So we have all of our food that we just brought from the field or from the storage or from the store, if it's not a from store. And before we designate Truma Ma'aser, it's all called Teva, and we're not allowed to have any food from it until we designate Truma Ma'aser. Now it's not Teva anymore, and now we can have it. Now we can enjoy it. Until we take Truma Ma'aser, it's called Teva. And with that, let's go into our Gemara. Again, the case of the Mishnah was the balabayas gives fruits to his friend to watch, to the shomer to watch, and it's going bad. Tanakama says you shouldn't touch it. For the Gemara, my time, or what's the reason? Why shouldn't you touch it? And for the Gemara, two reasons. Number one, Rav Kana says, Adam writes a person wants what he worked hard on, even if it's only one kav, over 9 kav that he will get from his friend. Let's say these are the kavs. He worked hard, he planted them, he made sure that they were growing, he cared for them, and so on and so on. He picked them. He cares for them, he wants to keep them. So now if they're getting rotten, he rathers them get rotten, and he's going to keep his own thing. Even though there's only going to be like 1 avocado left. He rathers that over selling the avocados that he worked hard on and buying 9 other avocados with it. So he rathers have his own thing. Therefore, lo yigalah, don't touch it. Second opinion is, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, maybe the balabayas has tevel at home. He has a lot of food at home, and Ma'aser wasn't taken from it. So he decides, you know what? Look, good idea. The shomer has these avocados at home, in his house. The shomer has these avocados. You know, that's going to be my Truma Meiser. And in the meantime, now everything else over here is not tevel anymore. I can eat it. I can enjoy it. So we suspect, maybe, Chayshira, we suspect, Shema Asan Balabayas Truma Meiser al Mokem Acher. Maybe the Balabayas made these avocados Truma Meiser over something else. So therefore, the Shomer shouldn't sell it to someone, because then he's selling Truma Meiser to Yisrael. That's very bad. Therefore, you shouldn't touch it. Now, before we go on to the next part, let's learn this part, small part inside the Gemara. Frag the Gemara, my time. What's the reason? What's the reason of Tanakama? Why shouldn't you touch it? And for the Gemara, Rav Kana said, Adam writes in the Kav Shaloi, a person wants his own Kav, even Kav is a measurement. A person wants his own one Kav, Mitisha Kavin, from 9 Kav, Shal Chaviri of his friend. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, no different reason. Chashinon, we suspect, Shema Son HaMafkid, maybe the depositor, the Mafkid, the Balabayas. Maybe he made them Truma Meiser, Al Mokem Acher, on another place, meaning on other fruits that he has. That's it. Rashi, Kav Shaloi, a person wants his own Kav. Chavibo Alo, it's precious on him, it's precious to him. Al Yedei Sha'amal, through they worked hard in it, through they toiled in it very, very hard. The Kav, and the one Kav, She'yishoyer, that will remain for him, Mehem from them, who writes that he wants. Mitisha Kav Shalacherim, more than 9 Kav that he'll get from someone else, Sheyikach Bidmeim, through the fact they will buy with their money, Im Yimachrim, if he will sell them. He rather have his own thing than selling and buying other ones, even though his own thing is going to be less. Chayshin Chulu, we suspect, etc. And since we suspect that maybe the Malbai is designated then as Truma Meiser, therefore, and what's going to happen? The Asr la'achilo l'zarim, and it's forbidden, it's Asr, to feed this Truma Meiser to foreigners, to people who are not Yisrael, people who are not a Kohen. Therefore, the Shemer shouldn't touch it, shouldn't sell it. Continues in the Gemara. Again, so Tanakama said in our Mishnah, don't touch it. Why? Says Rav Kana, because a person wants his own kav, even though it's going to be less. And Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, because we suspect maybe the Balabayas made it Truma Meiser. Now, we learned a Braisa that looks very similar to our Mishnah, but different. The case is the same. Someone who deposits fruits by his friend and they're getting rotten. Says the Braisa, lo yigabayan, you shouldn't touch them. And the Braisa continues and says, and because you're not going to touch them, therefore, lefichach, key word, remember this word, lefichach, therefore, oisa Truma Meiser, the Balabayas is able to go ahead and make it Truma Meiser. Now, let's see, does this Braisa work and align with Rav Kana, and does it align with Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak? Zak the Gemara. With Rav Kana, it works very well. The flow actually works perfectly. Mishnah says, don't touch it. Why? Because a person wants his own kav. And then comes the Braisa and says that since you're not going to touch it, therefore, since the shomer is not going to touch this fruits, therefore, the Balabayas can go ahead and designate them as Truma Meiser. Not a problem. And it works perfectly. But according to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, it doesn't seem right. What doesn't seem right? The Braisa says that because you're not going to touch it, therefore you're allowed to make it Truma Meiser. But according to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, it's just the opposite way around. Because we suspect that maybe he made it Truma Meiser, therefore the Mishnah says, Lo yigamohen. So which one is it? In other words, just to give you more clarity, according to Rav Nachman, the way how Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak puts it, it's like, since we suspect that maybe the Balabayas is going to make it Truma Meiser, like that's the beginning of the domino, that pushes, that's the cause, therefore you shouldn't touch it. Therefore you shouldn't, therefore the Shemer shouldn't sell the fruits. But from the Braisa it seems that because you shouldn't touch it, because the shomer is not going to touch it, that pushes the dominoes. Therefore, you're allowed to make it truma meiser. So one second, which one is it? Is it because you're not going to touch? Because you're not going to touch it, therefore you're allowed to make it truma meiser? Or, well, according to Rav Bar Yitzchak, the whole reason why you're not going to touch it is because you're not making it truma meiser. It's because you might make it truma meiser. Imagine if I would tell you, Pierre mopped the hallways in the middle of the day because Talmudim are not running in the hallway anyway. And then later on I tell you, don't run in the hallway because Pierre mopped. So one second, which one is it? Is it that you shouldn't run in the hallway because Pierre mopped? Or that Pierre mopped because Talmudim are not running anyway? Talmudim have to walk in the hallway. One second, which one's the cause and which one's the effect? Which one is like pushing the domino? Back over here. Is it because we suspect maybe the Baal Bayis is going to designate as Truma Meiser, therefore you shouldn't touch it? Or because you're not going to touch it, therefore you're allowed to make him Truma Meiser? Which one is it? And for the Gemara, even if Nachman Bar Yitzchak can work according to the Brisa. How so? Because at first, yes, you're right, we suspected that maybe the Baal Bayis is going to make a Truma Meiser. Therefore, the Chacham said, don't touch it. Now, once the Chacham already decided that no shomer should touch the fruits, and once that became din, that became the halacha, that a shomer should not sell it, so then comes the Brisa and says, you know what? Once anyway the shomer is not touching it, let everyone go ahead and make it Truma Meiser, no problem. So this is the way how you're supposed to learn the Mishnah, the reason and the Brisa. Tanakama says you shouldn't touch it. Why? Because we suspect maybe the Baal Bayis made it Truma Meiser. So therefore, don't touch it. Lo yigabah. Now comes the Brisa and adds on to that, because once we decided that you shouldn't touch it, you know what? By the way, anyone can always go ahead and designate them as Truma Meiser. Because the shomer is not going to touch it, he's not going to sell it. So it works out perfectly. Let's learn this piece of Gemara inside. Meisevei. Frag the Gemara, Meisevei. I'll ask you a kasha, I'll ask you a question. We learned the Brisa. Hamafkiid peritzei tel Chaviro. One who deposits fruits by his friend. Harei zeh lo yigabahen. This person should not touch it. This shomer should not touch it. Lefichach, therefore, keyword as I mentioned before, keyword lefichach. Keyword this is a very important word in the discussion. Lefichach, therefore, Baal Bayis oison truma meiser al makam acher. Therefore, the Baal Bayis is able to go ahead and designate them as truma meiser and somewhere else. Now, Bishlama, all is right. L'Rav Kana, according to Rav Kana. Hainu de Katani. This is what it means when it says lefichach. The word lefichach, therefore, that because you shouldn't touch it. Why shouldn't you touch it? Because a person wants his own cow. Therefore, you're allowed to go ahead and make it Truma Meiser. But according to Rav Bar Yitzchak, my lefichach. What does it mean lefichach? Why does the Mishnah say therefore you're allowed to make them? Why does the Brisa say therefore you're allowed to make them Truma Meiser? It's just the opposite way around. Because you might make them Truma Meiser, therefore you shouldn't touch them. My lefichach. What does it mean lefichach? And for the Gemara, this is what it means to say. Hashta the Amur Rabbanan. Now that the Rabbanan said, Loi Nizavni, that we shouldn't sell it. The Chayshinon, because we suspect that maybe the Baal Bayis made it Truma Meiser. Lefichach, therefore, Baal Bayis oisam Truma Meiser. Therefore, since you shouldn't touch them anyway, since the shomer shouldn't touch them, therefore the Baal Bayis want to go ahead and make them Truma Meiser on other fruits. Rashi, lefichach. This is in the Brisa. Lefichach, therefore, since it's forbidden to sell these fruits, since the shomer is not allowed to sell these fruits, mishum, because the reitza adam akashaloi, like the reason of Rav Kana. Because a person wants his own calf, therefore the shomer shouldn't touch it. They are in an establishment, they are in a chazaka, for sure that they exist, that they're not sold, that they're not somewhere else. and therefore umutar, it is permissible, umutar balabais, and the balabais is allowed la'asois truma meiser, to make them, to designate them truma meiser al peres sheyesh bebeisoi, over fruits that he has at home. What does it mean leficha? Why does it say therefore? Rashi explains what's the Gemara's question. Isur mechira, the whole reason, the whole prohibition, the whole isur of selling it, mishum hahu, is because of this, is because of maybe the Balabai is designated as Truma Meiser. Vehechi tali tana. And how did the tana of this Bryson depend the reason? How did he hang the reason? Asiyosoi. How did he hang the reason of making a Truma Meiser? Asiyosoi, of making a Truma Meiser, the isur mechira, in the prohibition of selling it. How did he say that? Because you're not allowed to sell it, therefore you're allowed to make a Truma Meiser. It works the other way around according to Nachman Bar Yitzchak. And just to point out, because of Nachman Bar Yitzchak can't argue with the Braisa, therefore it's going to end up being a kasha on Nachman Bar Yitzchak, not on the Braisa. Now, and for the Gemara, Hashka the Omer Rabbanan, now that the Rabbanan already said, like Tizavin, that you shouldn't sell the Chayshinon because we suspect. What do we suspect? Says Rashi, Shema Ason HaMafkid Truma, that maybe the Mafkid made a Truma. Harei Mecheskas, they are in a Chazaka of, they are in an establishment, Shalai Nibker, that they weren't sold. And therefore, V'oisa Ois and Balabayis V'chulu. And therefore the Balabayis can go ahead and make them Truma Meiser, no problem. And with that we conclude the first section of our sugya. Chilek 2. Again, we are focusing on the opinion of Tana Kama and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel of our Mishnah. The Balabayas gave fruits to the Shemer, it's growing rotten. The Tana Kama says you shouldn't touch it. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says you should sell it. Now, we learned a memra. A memra is a saying from a Moiroim. Rabbi Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, this whole machlokes between Tana Kama and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, whether you should touch it or not, is only b'chdei chisreina, is only the regular rate of it getting lost, of it getting ruined. But if it's yoysim b'chdei chisreina, if it's getting ruined more than the regular rate, then everyone agrees they should sell these fruits. You're going to ask me, Rabbi Babe, one second, how much is the regular rate of things getting lost? Rashi is going to answer that question. So we'll wait and learn it inside Rashi. But again, Rabbi Bar Chana in the name of Rabbi Yochanan says that our Mishnah is only arguing about the regular rate that things get lost. Now, going back to Tana Kama, we had two reasons why the shomer should not touch it. Number one, because a person wants his own cow. And number two, because maybe the Balabai has designated these fruits as Truma Meiser. And now what the Gemara is going to do, the Gemara is going to analyze, does Rabbi Yochanan align with Rabbi Nachman Bar Yitzchak, and does he align with Rav Kahana? So first, the Gemara eliminates the idea of aligning with Rabbi Nachman Bar Yitzchak, and the Gemara says, Vadai pli. For sure, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Nachman Bar Yitzchak, for sure they argue. Why? Very simple. Because if we suspect that maybe the Balabai is designated as Truma Meiser, then even if it's Yeshiva Megdei Chisreinan, still you shouldn't touch it. Because maybe it's Truma Meiser. You can't sell it. Maybe it's Truma Meiser. So they for sure argue. They for sure don't align. How about Rav Kahana? Should we say that they argue? Does Rav Kahana and Rabbi Yochanan align, or do they argue? And for the Gemara, no, they actually align. How? Because Rav Kahana says, Adam writes in a kav shalai, a person wants his own kav, as long as it's getting lost b'chdei chisreina, as long as the regular rate of getting lost. But if it's more than Yeshiva Megdei Chisreinan, then Adam loy writes in a kav shalai. A person rathers tisha kav and shal chaveri. If it's getting lost so quickly, so bad, then sell it. And I'll get and the person the Balabayas will rather get from someone else. So according to Rav Kana can work very well because the rule of other nights of the kaf shaloi only applies if it's going the regular rate of getting lost. But if it's more than the regular rate, rather sell it. Friend, Gemara, 1 second. 1 second. Rav Kana holds the other nights of the kaf shaloi only the chzara. That person wants his own kav only if it's the regular amount of getting lost. 1 second. Rav Kana doch said, Adam writes of the kav shalo, he wants one of his own kav, mitisha kav and over 9 kav from someone else. That means that he's ready to lose 90%. 90% is a lot more than kedei chesreinon. That means that a person is ready to lose Yosef kedei chesreinon, and he still only wants kav shalo, the 1 kav from him. So we must say that Rav Kana and Rabbi Yochanan do argue. Because a person is ready to lose 90%. And Kedei Chesreinon, the regular rate, is a lot less. The regular rate of things getting lost is a lot less than 90%. And for the Gemara, when Rav Kana said, other rates of the kaf shaloi, that person wants 1 kaf, that was a guzma b'alma, it was an exaggeration. It wasn't literally that he wants 1 and he's ready to lose 9. No, it's just an exaggeration to bring out the point. But it really means that a person wants, and he really wants, what he actually worked hard for, even if he's going to lose because of it. Maybe not 9 over 1, but he's not ready to lose 9 over 1, but he's ready to lose a little bit and have his things that he worked hard. Let's learn this chelik of the Gemara inside. We're holding approximately the middle of the page. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Machloik is the argument, and as Rashi clarifies right here, right alongside. Machloik is the machlokes, the masnisin of our Mishnah. B'chdei Chesreinon, the machlokes of our Mishnah of Tanakama says you shouldn't touch it. Tanakama Gamliel says you should sell it. The machlokes is only if it's deteriorating, if it's getting ruined, the regular amount, the regular rate. What's the regular rate? Let's go straight to Rashi, right alongside, right here. B'chdei Chesreinon, in the regular rate of getting lost, kederef sha'ar tuos, like the way of other grains. And what's the way? What is that? Like it said clearly, the Mishnah Seinu in our Mishnah, in our Perek, later on Daf Mem, in two Daf. And the Mishnah lists over there a whole list of produce, and how much is it normal, how much is normal to lose within a year. And one of the examples, the first example it actually brings down here, for rice, and for wheat and for rice. Tisha chatzori kavim, 9 half kav, lekur per akur. Now there's 180 kav in a kur. So if you have 180 kav, if you lose 4.5, 9 halves, 4.5 kav. If you lose 4.5 kav a year, that's fine. More than that, then it's already more than average. It's a bigger loss. Okay? So that's kedei chesreinon. So Zok Rabbi Yochanan, back to our Gemara. Says Rabbi Yochanan, if the food is going bad, b'chdei chesreinon, the regular amount, then Tanakama says you shouldn't touch it. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says you should sell it. Avol, but yes, b'chdei chesreinon, but if it's getting ruined more than the regular amount of getting lost, divrei hakel meichel b'beis. Everyone agrees you should sell it in front of Beis Din. Now, says the Gemara, Ad Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, on Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Vadai Pliga, for sure he argues. For that Gemara, Ad Rav Kana, on Rav Kana, Mi Lema, should we say Pliga, he argues? Mi Lema is a shayla. It's inquiring, like we're wondering. Does Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Kana argue? And for the Gemara, no, they don't argue. Kikam Rav Kana, when does Rav Kana say that a person wants his own kav and he's ready to lose? He says it when it's the regular amount that's deteriorating. Frag the Gemara, 1 second. Rav Kana said that a person wants his own kav. Again, a person wants his own kav. Mitisha kav over 9 kav from his friend. Gemara says. And for the Gemara, Guzma Ba'almo was just an exaggeration in the world. It was an exaggeration around it. He didn't mean the numbers literally. Rashi. We already did the first 2 Rashis. Avol, im, Abudin, but if they're getting lost more than the regular amount of Rashi, Afilu Rabbanan Moidu, even the Rabbanan, meaning Tanakama, even Tanakama admit the Yemachrim of Bezdin, that you should sell them in Bezdin. Vadai Pliga. For sure, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak and Rav Kan and Rabbi Yochanan, they for sure argue why. The Rabbi Yochanan, this that Rabbi Yochanan says that everyone agrees that you should sell it in Bezdin if it's going bad so much. Why do they for sure argue? The because if there's room to suspect the Shema Asan, Baalei, and Trumah, then maybe its owners designated them as Trumah, Afilu b'yesem even in more than the regular amount that's getting lost, Nami Asr l'mizbeninu, it's also forbidden to sell it. You shouldn't sell it even when it's getting so lost. Why should you not sell it even if it's getting so lost? Because the Baal Bayis still might make it Trumah Ma'aser. So they for sure argue. And Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak holds that Tanakama and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel argue in our Mishnah even when it's getting lost very quickly, very bad. Next Rashi. Milema Pligi, should we say that Rav Kana and Rabbi Yochanan argue? What's the 2 sides of the doubt? What's the 2 sides of our question? Dafka Amar Rav Kana? Did Rav Kana say what the other rights of the Kashmir? Did he say it specifically? Dafka specifically? She'im Tisha Kabinim. If there are 9 kabinim there, Noyachloi, it's comfortable for the person. She'yoydu ad kav, that it should be lost. That all of it should be lost ad kav until that there's only 1 kav left. Va'al yimachim, and you shouldn't sell it. The havalei, that this is to it, Yosef Mikdei more than the regular amount that gets lost. Meaning, if you're ready to lose, if you're ready to lose everything besides for 1 kav, then that's a lot more than the regular amount that gets lost. Upliga had Rabbi Yochanan alei, and this Rabbi Yochanan says argues on Rav Kana. Or not specifically tes kavin nakat, that he hopped on, he hooked on to 9 kav. Maybe he wasn't specific. Elo rather noyachloi, it's comfortable for him. Sheyei nifsat tzaz, they should lose a little bit. Ula oilom, and always kidei chesreinon, only the amount that's regular to get lost. V'suloi, and more than that, he's not ready to lose. So he wants his own, what he worked hard on, as long as it's the regular amount that deteriorates, not more. Guzma, what does it mean? Guzma, Zok Rashi. Sfas yeser, it's a term of more, like exaggeration. Now, kind of just gave a big number, but it's not literal. And with that, we move on to the next chelik of our Gemara. Chelik 3. But before that, let's go on to let's review one concept that we need to know first. So in the beginning, we already learned what's Truma Meiser, right? But what's Truma Meiser market? So let's say you have a grocery shop, or you have two separate stores, let's say, right? You have one aisle that has all included, tamei, tar, all the food, anyone can buy it. Chulin, kachim, everything. Not kachim. Chulin, all chulin. Not holy food. And then you have one aisle where there's only holy food, there's only truma. Okay? Now, who can buy the truma? Only a kohen. And even a kohen, he also wants to buy from the regular food because not always is it going to be tar. He needs to be tar in order to eat truma. So he also wants to get regular food. So which aisle is getting more customers, do you think? If you think it's this one, you're right. Everyone wants to shop in this aisle. No one's going to shop in this aisle. Right? So what are you going to do? You're going to make this aisle 50% off. So now, the concept that we're introducing is Truma Meiser market. The market for Truma Meiser is a lot cheaper. Okay? A kohen, if a kohen is going to buy truma, because a kohen needs to eat truma, no one else can eat truma. So if a kohen is buying truma, he's going to buy it at a lot cheaper. Why? Because only he's able to eat it, right? He can't sell it to anyone, so it's a big discount, and he can only eat it when he's tired. So truma ma'aser market is always going to be cheaper than the regular amount. And with that, we move on to Chelek Gimel of our Sugi. Now, let's recap from what we said before from Rabbi Bar Chana Rabbi Yochanan. And he says that the machloikas of our Mishnah between Tanakama and Mishum and Gamliel is only when the paydays are getting ruined at the regular rate. But if it's more than the regular rate, then everyone agrees they should sell it in Bezdin. And our Chelek of our, the Chelek of our Gemara is going to focus just on the part where it's where if it deteriorates more than the regular rate, then everyone holds you should sell it. Now the Gemara brings down the brayso that we learned earlier in Chelek 2. The brayso says someone who deposits fruits by his friend, you shouldn't touch them. And because you shouldn't touch them, therefore you're allowed to make them truma ma'aser over other fruits. Frag the Gemara 1 second. How could you make them truma ma'aser over somewhere else? Maybe we should suspect that the fruits went so bad that they were Yosef and according to Rabbi Yochanan, everyone agrees that you should sell it. And what's the problem? If the Baal Bayis is going to designate those fruits as truma, turns out that those fruits were sold already. They don't exist anymore. And the Baal Bayis is designating something that doesn't exist. And now the fruits that he's eating at home are teva. He's eating teva at home. If the Baal Bayis is relying on it, to make it truma ma'aser, how could the shomer sell it if it's Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon? If the shomer sells it and the Baal Bayis is relying on it, Baal Bayis kachol tefillin, the Baal Bayis is going to come out to eat tevel. How could, if the Mishnah says that we're relying, if the Brayso says that we're relying on these fruits, and the Baal Bayis can go ahead and make them truma ma'aser, how could the shomer sell it in a case where it's Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon? Maybe the Baal Bayis is relying on it. And for the Gemara, don't worry, the Baal Bayis could rely on it, no problem. Why? Because Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon is really not common. So don't worry about it. Go ahead, designate it as truma ma'aser. Yes, you don't need to be worried about Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon because it's really not common. So, what were we worried about? And maybe the Baal Bayis is going to designate the fruits as truma ma'aser, and if it's Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon, they're not going to exist. And then he's designating nothing, and he's eating tevel. But no, and for the Gemara, Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon really doesn't happen so often, so you don't need to be concerned about it. So no worries, you can rely that the fruits actually exist. Frag the Gemara 1 second. Even if Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon is not common, what if it does happen? I have another concern. If it does happen, I have another concern. Maybe, even when it doesn't happen, even when it happens like very unoften, maybe the Baal Bayis is actually going to make them truma ma'aser. Okay? Maybe the Baal Bayis is going to make them truma ma'aser, and now the shomer is going to sell it if it's Yosef Mikdei Chesreinon. If it does happen, maybe the shomer is going to sell it, and what's going to happen? A zor is going to be eating truma. That's a very big problem. That's horrible if a zor eats truma. So how could the shomer sell it? And for the Gemara, don't worry. When he sells it, when the shomer sells it, he sells it to Kohanim, he sells it to Kohanim b'dmei truma with the money value of truma, which is a lot cheaper. So any time that a shomer is actually going to sell the fruits, he's going to sell it at a cheaper price to Kohanim, because just in case the Baal Bayis made it truma. So it all works out. Beautiful. And with that, let's move on and learn an insight from him. We're holding Mesiveh. The second Mesiveh on the page. Most Gemaras, the line starts Mesiveh. Now the Gemara asks on Rabbi Yochanan, Meisivei, I'll ask you a kasha. We learned in the Braisa earlier. Lefichach, therefore, Ois Balabayis Oisa Oisan Truma Meiser Amokim Acher. Balabayis is able to designate those fruits as Truma Meiser over somewhere else, over fruit somewhere else. Velechosh, and he should suspect Dilma. Maybe Havalu, it will be to it, yes, maybe the fruits are deteriorating more than the regular rate. Vizavninu, and the Shemer will sell it. V'ka'achil tvalim, and then the Balabayas is eating tevel because he's designating fruits that don't exist, and now he's eating tevel. And for the Gemara, no worries. Yes, migdei chisreina, where's yes, migdei chisreina, loy shchiach. More than the regular amount of deteriorating is really not common, so you don't need to worry about it. Go ahead, rely on it, make it Truma Meiser. It's really not common that it should go so bad. And if it does happen, what should you do? You should sell it. That's horrible. And you should suspect maybe the Balabais actually made it Truma Meiser over other fruits. And if they are Truma Meiser, now Kim is Avninon. Now when you sell it, you're going to sell it to Yisrael, and Yisrael is going to eat Truma. That's horrible. That's a very big problem. And for the Gemara, Kim is Avninon, when we sell it, Nami l'kohanim, we also sell it to the kohanim, b'dmei Truma is Avninu, with money of Truma, with the money value of Truma, with a cheaper price is how you sell it. So don't worry about it. We don't have any suspicion. We don't have any problem of a Yisrael eating any Truma. Rashi. Meisivei. Meisivei is up to Rashi. Who are we asking on? Rabbi Yochanan. This is a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. V'ka'ochelin is going to eat. Balabayis tvalim. The owners are going to eat tevel. Why? She'ein peireisa mesukayim. Because his fruits that he has at home are not fixed. Because the Balabais didn't designate any fruits over them, for Truma Meiser over them. The fruits that he designated don't actually exist. They were sold. They're not his anymore. She'ein elu kayam, because these fruits they gave to the Shemer don't exist. She'o soymach alayim, they is relying on them. And for the Gemara, lo shchichi, it's not really common. Ve'ein lochush bekach, and you shouldn't suspect about this. Ufarchinon, and we ask right away. The Gemara asks right away. 1 second. Ve'im ishtaki, and if it does happen, should we sell it? Bitmiya, with a wonder. Rashi over here from Ufarchinon is saying how to read the Gemara. So Ufarchinon, when he asked, Ve'im ishtaki, like with a wonder, like, and if we sell it, and if it does happen, if Yeshiva does happen, what? We should sell it. That's going to be a very big problem. And what's the problem? Leichosh, we should suspect. Shema Asam Chulu, maybe the Balabais made them, Truma Meiser. V'nimtzana comes out, Hamoicher, the seller, the Shomer, Machil Truma Lazarim, he's feeding Truma to foreigners, to Yisrael, which is a very big problem. B'dmei Truma, with money of Truma, Zatrashi, what is money of Truma? B'zoil, cheaper. Because there's not as many people jumping on it, there's no one jumping on it to buy it. It's not the hottest product in the store. No one really wants to buy it. Why? Because it's not eaten only to kohanim, and even kohanim, and it needs guarding with impurity. Even a kohen that buys it, you need to guard it purely. So not everyone's jumping to buy it, and it's going to go for a lot cheaper. And with that, we move on to arguably the most geschmacka chelik in our sugya. Chelik 4. And here again, we're discussing the opinion of Tanakama that you shouldn't touch it. What's the reason? What's the reason why you shouldn't touch it? Says the Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Because maybe we suspect maybe the Balabais made them Truma Meiser over other fruits, and now if you sell it, Yisrael is going to be Truma. Frag the Gemara, 1 second. Last section of our sugya, we gave a beautiful answer that you should sell the fruits to kohanim. So why doesn't Rav Nachman say that? Why does Rav Nachman hold that you should sell it to Kohanim? Genius. And then you don't need, and then you could sell it. You don't need to let it sit and rot. Rav Nachman should have said, why doesn't Rav Nachman hold they could sell it to Kohanim? Why does he say we suspect that that the Balabais might make a Truma Meiser, and that's it. So what? Sell it to Kohanim, no problem. And for the Gemara, yes, very good, beautiful. That is what Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yechon argue about. You remember in section 1. Sorry, in section 2, in Chelek 2 of our Sugya. You remember we said Vadai Pligi, they for sure argue? That is exactly what they argue about. What do they argue about? Rav Yechon says that in a case of Yosef if it's more than the regular rate, then everyone holds you should sell it. But Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says in a case of in a case where it's more than Kedei Chesrein, don't sell it. Not everyone holds sell it. And why? Why do they agree? Why do they argue like this? And now you might not yet get what's going on, but once we finish this, then you'll get the whole picture, and it's so gishmak. So, how come? Stay focused. Again, let me start again from the answer. And for the Gemara, that's exactly what they're arguing about. But this is what they're arguing about. Rabbi Yechon says that if it's getting deteriorated very quickly, then everyone holds sell it. Rabbi Yitzchak says, no, don't sell it. Why? Why do they hold that? Because Rabbi Yitzchak holds, because Rabbi Yechon holds that Yosef Mikdei Chesrein more than the regular amount is lo shkia, not common. And if it does happen, it happens very late. Okay? And if the Baal Bayis made them Truma Meiser, the Baal Bayis made them Truma Meiser earlier on. So now, what do we suspect? We suspect that maybe you're going to sell it to a Kohen. Maybe, you're going to sell it to Yisrael. Maybe Yisrael is going to eat Truma. Therefore, sell it to Kohen, and no problem. This answer works for Rabbi Yechon. But according to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Yosef Mikdei Chesrein is shchiach, is common. And if it happens earlier on. And if it happens earlier on, by the time the Baal Bayis wants to designate it as Truma Meiser, the Shaimer might have sold it already. So what are we concerned about? Maybe the Baal Bayis is going to designate fruits and vegetables that don't exist, and he's going to be eating tevel. That's what we're concerned about. Therefore, don't touch it. And you can't give me an answer of sell it to Kohen, because we're not even concerned about that. We're concerned about the Baal Bayis eating tevel. We're concerned about it going bad early, and the Shemer is going to sell it, and then the Baal Bayis is going to designate something that was sold, something that doesn't exist anymore, and then he's going to be eating tevel. Therefore, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak can't use the answer of L'Kohen B'nei Truma. Beautiful. If you didn't understand this from what I just said, rewind and play it again. Once you understand this answer and the bigger picture of their argument, that now we understand the entire argument of Rabbi Bar Chana and Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, all the way back from Shiur from Chelek 2 of our Sugya, it's Pash Gishmak. Again, to review very quickly. Rabbi Bar Chana, in the name of Rabbi Yechon, says that if it's Yosef Mikdei Chesrein, if it's more than the regular amount, then everyone holds sell it. And you should sell it to Kohen. Why? Because Yosef Mikdei Chesrein barely ever happens. So the Baal Bayis, if the Baal Bayis designated them as Truma Meiser, he for sure did it already. So just sell it to Kohen. So no problem, because that's what we're worried about. We're worried about maybe he's going to sell it to Yisrael. So sell it to Kohen. But if not, Bar Yitzchak, he holds that Yosef Mikdei Chesrein happens very often. So don't sell it. Why? Because if you sell it, maybe the Baal Bayis is going to designate them as Truma Meiser, and they don't exist because they were sold, and then the Baal Bayis is going to be eating tevel. So therefore, don't sell it. Beautiful. Let's look inside the Gemara. This part inside the Gemara takes up a very large space, but it's a very easy flow. Okay. Now, again, we're coming in continuation to the answer that you should sell it to Kohanim for the money value of Truma. And according to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Nami also, you should sell it for the money value of Truma, to Kohanim the money value of Truma. And for the Gemara, this is what they argue about. The Rabba Bar Chana Savar, the Rabba Bar Chana holds that more than the regular amount of getting ruined is not common at all. Is not common at all. And when it does happen, later on, who the havya is when it happens. Yes, more than the regular amount of deteriorating. If the Balabayas does to it, if the Balabayas designates it as Truma Meiser over somewhere else, earlier on, the Havalahu Yaisim Mikdei when it becomes, it's earlier, he designates it as Truma Meiser before it becomes Yaisim Mikdei more than the regular amount that it gets ruined. Avilahu does he do to it? Meaning the Balabayas designates it Truma Meiser earlier on, much before it's Yaisim Mikdei He'll come, therefore, Ki Havalahu Yaisim Mikdei when it does become more than the regular amount, Nizamninu, we should sell it to Kohanim in the value of Truma, because that's what we're suspecting. Maybe it's Truma already, and you can't sell Truma to Yisrael, so sell it to Kohanim. Beautiful. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Savar, and Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak holds, yes, in Gedei Chesronon, Mishkach Shchiach. More than the regular amount of getting destroyed, getting ruined, happens very often. It happens, Mishkach Shchiach. It happens very often. And when it does happen, when it happens, alter right away. Who the Havalu? It happens right away when it happens. And if you say Nizavninu, you should sell it. Zimnin, there are times the Kodim that he will come earlier, that the Shemer will come earlier, and he will sell the fruits. He will sell to it the fruits. And when the Balabayas does to it, Truma Meiser, Truma Meiser, on other fruits, on other place, Lo Yada, he doesn't know the Zavna that it was sold. The Balabayas is going to designate those avocados as Truma Meiser, and it comes out, he doesn't know that they were already sold, and he doesn't even own them anymore. The Kachel told him, and then he's going to be eating tevel. That is exactly that is exactly what they're arguing over. What are we concerned about? When does Yaisim Mikdei concern happen? And therefore, should you sell it or should you not touch it? That's exactly the machlekes of Rabbi Bar Chana and Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says don't touch it because maybe the Balabais is relying on it, and Rabbi Bar Chana says no, go ahead and sell it to Kohanim because the Balabais made it to him already. Rashi. L'kamei Yehuda Havya. L'kamei. Later on, who the Havya Yasmik Nechasern is when it happens that it's more than the regular amount. Lizman Meruba, to a long time, for a long time. Yesh B'Ibudon, there is in its loss, there's a long time until it gets lost. Yasmik Nechasern more than the regular amount that gets lost. Mikamei, earlier than Yehavu, that it happens. Chulum, etc. Why? How do I know that the Balabai is definitely designated the Truma Meiser before it went bad? She'ein Adam Masha, because a person does not make weight, Tvolim, Tevel, in his house, Kol Kav Zman Meruba Kazeh, so much time like this, Milasaknan, from to fix them. A person doesn't leave Tevel around his house. A person wants to eat the food that's in his house. Right, so a person doesn't wait so long to designate Truma Meiser. He doesn't push it off. He wants to make sure everything in his house is edible, is fixed. So he makes a Truma Meiser right away. And if yes, Mikdei Chesronon happens a lot longer after. Okay, and with that we continue on to the next chelek of our sugya. And now the Gemara brings down a brayso. The brayso goes as follows: hamafkiid peiros etzel chaveiro, someone who deposits fruits by his friend, and they got rotten. Or similarly, yayin v'hechmitz, wine, and it became vinegar. Shemen v'hivish, oil, and it became spoiled, it became bad. Dvash v'hivish, honey, and it lost its taste, and it went spoiled. What should you do in all these cases? Says the Braisa, says Rabbi Meir, lo yigabahen, you shouldn't touch them. Says Chachamim, moichram bezdin, you should sell them in front of bezdin. And the Chachamim adds, ve'enei moichram la'atzmai. Since you're watching it for someone else, don't sell it to yourself. Sell it to someone else. Why? So people shouldn't think that you're paying less for it and you're like cheating. So rather sell it to someone else with an honest rate. Kayaitzabai, and the Braisa goes on, Kayaitzabai, similar to this, Gabait Tzedakah. A Gabait to someone who's in charge of collecting tzedakah and redistributing it to the poor people. Bisman she'ein la'hem aniyim l'chalek, when they have no poor people to divide the money to. And the Gabait Tzedakah has copper coins. What should he do? And the Rashi explains, the copper coins would wear out and then they would become invalid currency. So if you can't give them to poor people to use and they're just sitting, you need to exchange them for silver that lasts for longer. Silver coins. So when you exchange them, says the Mishnah, you exchange with other people, and you shouldn't exchange with your own wallet. Why? Because then people are going to think that you're maybe giving yourself a discount, maybe you're giving yourself a better rate. Rather, exchange it with someone else. Similarly, Gabay Tamchoy. Gabay, someone that's in charge of a food pantry. Tamchoy is a food pantry where there was a person in the town who would collect fresh food and from the people in the town, and he would distribute the fresh food to poor people. Okay, so Gabay Tamchoy, a person in charge of a Tamchoy. Bisman she'ein la'hem aniyim l'chalek, when they have no poor people to divide the food to. Moichin la'chein, you divide it to. You sell the fresh food, you sell it to other people. But don't sell it to yourself. Don't buy it from yourself. Why? Because maybe people are going to think, again, same reason, maybe people are going to think that you're giving yourself a better rate. You're buying the food at a discount by yourself. Rather sell it to other people at a good price. So that way the tzedakah actually makes good money. Now, the Mishnah is going to focus just on, our Gemara is going to focus just on the first part of our Braisa, about the פירות and the wine, oil, and honey. And now the Gemara comes with an assumption. Rabbi Meir says you shouldn't touch it, even though it's going bad. Shouldn't touch it. So the Gemara assumes even if it's even if it's more than the regular amount that's getting lost, even so, Rabbi Meir says you shouldn't touch it. For the Gemara, that's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan who says, if it's Yeshiva, everyone holds you should sell it. What? Everyone holds you should sell it? Rabbi Meir doesn't. Kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. And for the Gemara, no. Rabbi Meir only says you shouldn't touch it as long as it's the regular amount that's getting lost. As long as it's Kedei Chesreina. If it's Yeshiva Kedei Chesreina, then even Rabbi Meir would hold that you should sell it. Frag the Gemara, one second. We're talking about wine that became vinegar. We're talking about oil and honey that went spoiled. You can't use them anymore. That sounds to me like yes, mikdei chesreinan. V'hechmitz, v'hivish, v'hivish. That's yes, mikdei chesreinan. And still, the Meir says you shouldn't touch it. So you can't tell me that he says only don't touch it when it's mikdei chesreinan. He says don't touch it even yaisa mikdei chesreinan. And back to Kasha on Rabbi Meir, on Rabbi Yochanan, not everyone holds that you should sell it. And for the Gemara, there's a difference between yayin, shemen, and dvash, and regular פירות. What's the difference? When it comes to yayin, shemen, and dvash, when it comes to the hechmitz, v'hivish, came on the kam. Once it stood in a status of bad, once it became vinegar or spoiled, etc., it's staying in that status. You can't sell it before it goes more bad. It's bad, and that's it. It's not going to get any more bad. Therefore, When it comes to yayin, shemen, and dvash, says Rebbe Meir, don't sell it, because what are you going to gain by selling it? So even though it's more than kedei chesreinon, even though it's yes kedei chesreinon, still don't touch it. But פירות become more and more and more and more rotten, right? So that, when it comes to פירות, then Rebbe Meir holds you should sell it. That's how Rebbe Meir could really agree, Rebbe Meir really could be learned in a way that he agrees that yes kedei chesreinon, you should sell it. What does it mean, Kevin the Kam? Wine, oil, and honey are yesem kedei chesreinon, and don't touch them because they're not going to become worse. Yes, so this yain, shemen, and vash, yes, they're yesem kedei chesreinon, and don't touch it because it's not going to. And the reason why you shouldn't touch it is because they're not going to get any worse. So you're not gaining anything by selling it at this point. But other פירות are only, you should only not touch it if it's kedei chesreinon, not if it's more than kedei chesreinon. If פירות are yesem kedei chesreinon, then like Rabbi Yechon says, everyone says you should sell it. Let's learn this chilek of the Gemara inside. Chilek 5. Third mesave in this same sugya. Third mesave, here we go. Mesave, friend, the Gemara, mesave, I'll ask you a kasha from a brisa, hamafkiid, xaviro. Someone who deposits fruits by his friend, when they were getting rotten, yayin vehechmitz, wine and was becoming vinegar, shemen v'hivish, oil and was becoming bad, dvash v'hidvish, honey and was becoming and was losing its taste, was becoming spoiled. He should not touch them. The shomer should not touch them. These are the words of Rebbe Meir. The say, you do for them a takana. You do a special fix for them. You do something special for them. And you sell them, and you sell them in Bezdin. And when he sells them, you should sell them to other people. The you should not sell it to yourself. Similar to this. People who are in charge of tzedakah. When they don't have poor people to divide the money to, you exchange the copper coins to other people. And you do not divide it, you don't exchange it to yourself with your own bank account. With your own wallet. And similarly, gaboy tamchui, people who are in charge of the food pantry, when they have no poor people to divide the food to, you sell it to other people. And you don't sell it to yourself. Now, the Gemara goes back and focuses on the original machlokes. Katani mihas. However, it says, if fruits are going bad, my love, doesn't it mean afilu yasmin kedei even more than the regular amount that's going bad? And even so, Rabbi Meir holds don't touch them. So how can Rabbi Yochanan say everyone agrees you should sell it if it's yasmin kedei? Rabbi Meir says you shouldn't touch it. So not everyone agrees you should sell it. And for the Gemara, Lord, no, it's the regular amount of getting ruined. No problem. Frag the Gemara, yayin v'hachmitz, wine that became vinegar, shemen v'hivish, oil that went bad, dvash v'hidvish, honey that became spoiled. That they are more than the regular amount of getting lost, and still Rabbi Meir says you shouldn't touch them. So Rabbi Meir says clearly you shouldn't touch it. How can Rabbi Yochanan say that everyone agrees you should sell it? And that doesn't work. And for the Gemara, shani hani, these are different. Yayin, shemen, and dvash are different. That why? Even though they're yesmin kedei chesreinon, you shouldn't sell it. Kevon the come, since that once they stand in their status of ruined, they stand in the status of ruined and they don't get any worse. Rashi. But other payers, if it's Yosef Megdei Chesreinon, then Taka, you should sell it. Like Rabbi Yechman says. V'hidvish, says Rashi. What does it mean, v'hidvish? Yotza tam duvshanoi. The taste of its honey, the sweetness of the honey went away. The hechmitz and it became vinegar. And now Rashi explains what does it mean. V'hidvish became the word sounds like it became honey. Well, what does that mean? And Rashi explains the word. Ashmalir Balaz, Kiditmar, and as we learn in Iyov, in a pasuk in Iyov, the Chol Tvuasi Tisharish, and all my grain should take root, it uproots all of my grain. Te'okir Shashah will uproot its roots, Ukmoi, and just like another pasuk, Ad Loi Yirasik, until it won't be snapped. Chevel, the Chevel HaKesef, the silver rope. Yiftechu Rechoikos Avoisel, the corpse, the dead bodies will snap open. Sorry, not the corpse, the cords, the cords, the ropes will snap open. So over here we find similar lashonis that were similar to the hidvish, that it means that went bad. Oisalem takana, you make for them a fix. You do something special for the Baal Lekamei, later on in the Gemara, the next chelek, mefarish mai takana yashkoit. What fix can you still do to wine and oil and honey that went bad? What can you still do with it? Halay kol kilkul hasid lavoy. Any ruining that can still happen, already came. Anything bad that can happen to wine that became vinegar already happened. It's not, vinegar can't go worse. So what fix are you doing over here? Fruits, you can fix it before it goes more bad, more of it goes bad. But what fix can you do for wine, honey, and oil? The aim you shouldn't sell to yourselves, like Rashi. That you shouldn't, that people shouldn't suspect it. Maybe he bought it for cheaper. Party, you exchange it. Says Rashi. What does it mean you exchange it? Why should you need to exchange the money? Says Rashi. You exchange copper coins. Vesil a slime with silver coins. Because the smaller coins, the pruta, the copper pruta, misafshois, become worn out, v'nifsoles, and they become possible, they become invalid currency. Tamchui, what is a tamchui? Macho, it's food, shegoivim, mibalabatim, that we demanded from balabatim, from people in the community. Lechalek la'anim, to divide it to the poor people, b'chol yom, every day. So what happens when you collect it and there's no poor people to divide it to? My lab doesn't mean I feel even more than the regular amount that gets lost. Zok Rashi. The equal amount of Omar, and there is a man of Omar, Rabbi Meir of our Brisa. There is a man of Omar who holds Lo Yiga, you shouldn't touch it. The Atamar, and you said, Rabbi Yechman said, that everyone holds you should sell it. Kasha on Rabbi Yechman, not everyone agrees you should sell it. Shocker. Kevan, come. Once it stands, it stands. What does it mean once it stands, it stands? Once they stood in their ruined state, they already stood. They already stood in that state. And they won't get any more ruined. But all other payers, all other fruits, they go, they become more and more ruined, so therefore you should sell them right away. Therefore, you would sell them if they're getting more and more ruined. But wine and oil and honey, that once it got bad, it's not getting any more bad. So there's no point in selling it. Might as well just give this back to the Balabais. And with that, we go on to the final part of our sugya, which in itself has two small parts. Oh, hi, Camel. You're supposed to come in later, but welcome. Okay, so Talking about Yosef Mikdei Chesron, we said that these the wine, the oil, and the honey is Yosef Mikdei Chesron, and Chachamim say you should sell it. What can you do with it? Says the Gemara, if everyone says you should sell it, what should you do with it? What are you selling it for? What can someone do with it once it's ruined? What can you do with oil? And what can you do with honey? And for the Gemara, oil you could use for smearing on leather hides. Even though it's bad, you can still use it for that. And honey you could use to smear on a sore that's on a camel's back. When a camel is carrying a heavy load, sometimes it gets a sore and its back gets crushed. And in order to heal it, you can smear honey on it. And even honey that goes spoiled and loses its sweetness, you can still use it. Let's learn the Gemara inside quickly. At the bottom of Lamed Ches, Amud Aleph, going on to Lamed Ches Amud Beis. Shemen v'hidvish, oil that became bad, dvash v'hidvish, and honey that became spoiled. B'may chazu, what is it good for? And for the Gemara, shemen chazi, oil is good for legidiloi, for hides, for skins. Dvash, honey, liksisha the gamli, for a sore that's on a camel. Rashi, top Rashi, Lamed Ches Amud Beis, L'may chazu, what's it good for? The katani moichron, that the Chacham say you should sell it. What should you sell it for? What can you sell it for? What's it good for? And for the Gemara, legildoi. What does it mean, legildoi? Losuch oiros, to smear hides, skins, to make them good. Liksisha de gamli, for a sore of a camel. Liksisha, for a sore, she'ala gamol, she'gaboy, she'ala gamol, that's on the camel. She'gaboy, because it's back. Kasush, is crushed. Umesukav, and it's smashed. Machmas masri, because of the weight. Ashra balaz. Now moving on to the final last piece of Chelek 6 of our Sugya. And we go back to the Braisa that we brought down before, someone who deposits his fruits by his friend and they are going bad. Okay? Chachamim say you should sell it, and the words that Chachamim actually say, you should do a takana, you should make an Islam takana, you make a fix, you do something special for them, and you sell it. Frag the Gemara 1 second. The wine and the honey, what special are you doing? Like you're just selling, like you're selling bad, spoiled stuff. What good thing are you? What fix are you really doing? And for the Gemara, my takana, what's this takana that you're doing? Well, what's the special fix? And for the Gemara, what you're really fixing is, by selling the honey and selling the oil and selling the wine, really you're saving the barrels and the jugs that they were kept in. So they shouldn't go bad. Friend the Gemara 1 second. If Chachamim hold that you should sell it, and Rabbi Meir says that you shouldn't touch it, but if it's more than the regular amount, then you should sell it. Okay? So everyone ends up holding that you should sell. What are they really arguing? What are they really arguing? What really is their argument? Just about the barrels? Like what's behind their argument? Like because at the end of the day, Chacham hold that you sell everything and you also sell the barrels. You sell the wine and you sell the barrels. The Meir holds that you shouldn't sell the wine and you should sell the fruits. So really, what's behind their argument? And the Gemara explains what's behind their argument. Now the Meir says להפסד מרובה חששו, that he suspected for a big loss. For all the fruits, he suspected, and if it's a big loss, then sell it. If it's Yeshiva Mikdei Chesron. But להפסד מועט, for a small loss of the barrels, לא חששו, he did not. He didn't suspect. He wasn't concerned about the small loss of the barrels. It's like a side point. We're not concerned about it. It's like no big deal. Chachamim afilu hefsed muat nami chashshu. Even for a small for a small loss of the barrels, they were concerned, and therefore they said, sell the barrels and sell the wine. Rabbi Meir says, no. The wine is, it's bad anyway, don't sell it. The barrels we're not concerned about. And the fruits, if it's yes, then sell it. And with that we conclude this long sugya. Let's learn it inside. Continues the Gemara, and Chachamim say, that you do a fix for them, you do something special for them, and you sell them beis. In fact, the Gemara, my takana avilu, what takana are you doing over here? And for the Gemara, Rashi said, Lekankanim, for the jugs, for the containers that the wine, oil, and honey were in, you're saving them that they would have got ruined. What are they actually arguing on? What's behind their argument? Because it seems like at the end of the day they're not really arguing about much. So what are they really arguing about? The bar savar, that this one, that this master holds. The master holds, meaning Rabbi Meir holds. להפסד מרובה חששו, that they suspected for a big loss, like all the paydays. להפסד מועט לא חששו, but for a small loss of just the jugs, they weren't concerned about. So just let them sit. Umar Savar, and the master hold, meaning and Chacham hold. Afilu lehafsed muat chashashu, even for a small loss of the jugs, even for that, which is like a side thing compared to the wine and the oil and so on. Even for that, the Chacham suspected. Lekankanav zokt Rashi. For its containers, zokt Rashi. Hakli, the vessel, shahaya b'soichai, that the wine was in it, yiskalkel, will be ruined, im yisha b'soichai, if you will make it wait in it. If you'll make the wine sit and wait in this barrel, the barrel will get ruined. B'mai kamifligi, what are they arguing in? Rabbi Meir v'Rabbanan, what are Rabbi Meir and Rabbanan arguing in? After the fact, Rabbi Meir admits that if it's more than the regular amount that it's getting lost, you should sell it. Lehafsed meruba, for a big loss, Zokt Rashi, Kigoy, for example, if the fruits are going bad more than the regular amount, then we suspect for that and let the shomer sell it. Hafsed muad, but a smaller loss, Kigoy, for example, the regular amount of how much it gets lost, the recovery paydays of the rotting of the fruits, the kilkol hakankan, and the ruining of the jug of the container, the yain of the wine, the hechmitz, and that it got vinegar. And that with that we conclude this long and geschmacke sugya. If you stayed on here until now, then we'll reward you with a small. We'll end off with a milsa de b'nichusa. Usually we're supposed to do it in the beginning, but we'll end off with a small milsa de b'nichusa, and especially for the parent body who may be watching the video. Where does a dad keep all of his dad jokes? The Entfer is Gara Pashta, in a database. Anyway, bring Mashiach now.